Okay, hi everyone. So right now, today we're going to go through the Section 3 non-calculator math portion of the SAT Practice Test 1. So I'll just kind of do it and then you'll be able to follow along. Okay, so number 1, if x minus 1 over 3 equals k and k equals 3, what is the value of x? So in this case, they're giving us what k equals, so it's just a plug and chug kind of question. So you're going to plug 3 into k, and then this just becomes solving the equation at this point. So to get rid of that 3 on the denominator, you have to multiply this side by 3, and whatever you do to one side, you're going to do to the other. So then you get x minus 1 equals 9, and then now you're going to add the 1, x equals 10. So this is going to be D. Number 2, what is the sum of that? So I'm going to rewrite it like this so that it's easier for me to just add together. And so 7 minus 8, you're going to add the like terms. This is adding complex numbers. So it's going to be negative 1 plus, and then 3i plus 9i is 12i. So that's A. Okay, on Saturday afternoon, Armand sends M text messages each hour for 5 hours. And Tyrone sends P text messages each hour for 4 hours. Which of the following represents the total number of messages sent by Armand and Tyrone on Saturday afternoon? So, in this case, we know that Armand, which I'm just going to write an A for, is writing 5 hours, 5 text messages, 5 hours of text messages. So, every hour he's sending M texts, and he's doing that for 5 hours straight. So, I'm multiplying that. And then for Tyrone, he's doing the same thing, but instead of 5, he's doing it for 4 hours. He's sending P amount of text. So the total sum between those of how many messages they've sent is pretty simple. It's just going to be C. So it's going to be adding those two. Kathy is a repair technician for a phone company. Each week she receives a batch of phones that need repairs. The number of phones that she has left to fix at the end of each day can be estimated with the equation P equals, okay. This is our equation where P is the number of phones left and D is the number of days she has worked that week. What is the meaning of the value 108 in this equation? So automatically, I know that 108 is the y-intercept. So this is a y-intercept question. Basically, what they want me to answer is what that y-intercept really represents. And I know that she starts off a week with a batch of phones that need repairs. And then every day, she's getting rid of some amount, which is what the slope is going to end up being. So that means that anything that talks about rates, those are slopes. So these can all be canceled out. And then when you say Kathy starts each week with 108 phones to fix, that makes sense because she's starting the week and then she's going to lower that pile of phones that she's going to be repairing. So it's B. Okay, this one is a nice one. The main place where people mess up is this minus sign. Be sure to distribute that properly. So I like to just draw 3 lines so I really know that, and I'll rewrite this first part, and then I'll rewrite that second part with the distributed negatives. So I'm going to do x squared y minus 3x y squared plus 3y squared. So then in this case, I get lucky because this cancels out with this, plus and minus, and then now all I have to do is add these two. So I get 2x squared y, and then I'm going to do 5x squared, xy squared minus 3xy squared, which is going to be plus 2xy squared, which is C. Okay, number 6. So they're telling me h is equal to 3a plus 28.6. To be completely honest, all of this stuff is kind of just fluff. Most of the times it's good to read, but it's just going to have a lot of just information explaining what the equation is. So I'm going to quickly skip over the actual question and see what they're going to say. Based on the model, what is the estimated increase in inches of a boy's height each year? And then they're telling me that the model above estimates the height of a boy in inches in terms of the boy's age. So this is honestly just a straightforward slope question. They're literally just asking you in hidden words with a very complicated word problem, what is the slope? And so in this case, the slope is just 3. So right here, it's just 3. So this would be A. Okay. All right. So number 7 is probably a very intimidating question, just because, you see big numbers, you're kind of worried on how to approach it. This question essentially is what I like to call an isolation question. It's just switching or moving around numbers and variables to get one thing on one side. So I'm going to put this in terms of, instead of all this crazy stuff, I'm just going to circle what I really want. So I'm going to highlight, okay, I want P in terms of M, R, and N. So I'm going to highlight this P. So the question I'm asking myself is, how do I get everything else on the other side? I want P alone at the end. And that's really nice because all I'm doing is I'm multiplying P by a fraction. And so with solving equations kind of properties, you know that to get rid of a fraction from one side to the other, you can multiply by the reciprocal of that fraction. So instead of all of this on the top, I'm going to put all that on the bottom here. So R over 1,2000 times 1 plus to the power of n. And then I'm going to put that bottom stuff on the top here. So essentially whatever I do to one side, I'm going to do to the other side. So I'm looking for the answer that has this on the top and this on the bottom times the n. And the only answer choice that makes sense there is B. So that would be your answer. Number 8. So if A over B equals 2, and they're asking for 4B over A. So to get A over B to B over A, I'm going to flip it, which means I have to flip the other side. So I'm going to put 1 over 2 instead of just 2. And then now all they're doing is multiplying this by 4, and then 4 times 1/2 is going to be 2. So this is C. All right, number 9. What is the solution xy to system of equations above? Okay, so I'm just going to do elimination. So I know that I can keep 3x plus 4y minus equals negative 23, but I'm going to multiply this bottom by 2 so that I can get 4y, so I can cancel out 4y. So I'm going to do 4y minus 2x equals negative 38, and then here I can kind of subtract this bottom equation, and it's nice to just rewrite this. Sometimes rewriting this bottom as negative 2x plus 4y equals negative 38 helps. And then I'm going to subtract these two because essentially I want the 4y's to cancel out, and those will in that case. So this is going to equal 5x equals, and then this is going to be negative 23 minus 38, but minus a negative 38. So that's going to be positive 15. And then when I solve, I get x equals 3. And now it's great because off the bat, if I'm confident with my answer, I can just circle B and call it a day because there's no other answer choice where x is equal to 3. So it's always good to just do that, trust your gut at the beginning, and then maybe at the end you can go back and recheck over everything. Okay, number 11. Okay, in the equations above, B and C represent the price per pound in dollars of beef and chicken, respectively, X weeks after July 1st during last summer. What is the price per pound of beef when it was equal to the price per pound of chicken? I stumbled there a little, but basically this is asking me, first of all, there's two things that we want to kind of figure out. One is, when are the prices equal? And then what specifically is the price of beef when they are equal? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first set them equal and just solve. So 2, and this is going to be kind of annoying, and this is one of those questions where it really is a time cruncher to actually do the question out. But there's going to be some questions that are like that on this test, so. Okay, so I'm just going to start solving for x. So 1.75, that's going to tell me that 0.6 plus 0.25x equals 4.40x. And then this means that 0.6 equals 0.15x. And then when I solve for x, I'm dividing 0.6 by 0.15, and that's going to give me x equals 4. So once I get x equals 4, the context in this question is saying that when x equals 4, at 4 weeks past July 1st, the price of beef and chicken are going to be the same. So now they're really just asking me what the price per pound of beef is now. So all I have to do is plug in that 4 into this beef equation right here. So I'll do that in green. 2.35 plus 0.25 times 4, which is nice because that works out to be just 1. So 2.35 plus 1 is going to equal 3.35. So that is going to be the answer choice D. Here, let me put that. D. Okay. A line in the xy plane passes through the origin and has a slope of 1/7. Anytime that they're talking about stuff and they like lines and stuff like that, it's always good to just start drawing it out. So it passes through the origin and it has a slope of 1/7. So I know it's going to go rise 1, and then it's going to go right like 7. We'll eyeball that. So right here. So this is the 7, 1. So now I'm kind of just looking for multiples of this at this point. So something like D catches my eye because I know that 7, 1 is on the plane. So then 14, 2 is also going to be on the plane if you multiply both those by 2. So times 2 times 2. That works. Okay. 13. Okay, so this one is a really cool question because they like to trick you a lot because they have this 1 over all that. So first, what you need to do in the bottom is make a common denominator, which basically means that you need to multiply both of these by something to get the denominator to be the same. So I'm going to do that out here. 1 plus x 2 plus 1 over x plus 3. So you can multiply this by x plus 3 over x plus 3. And you want to multiply this by x plus 2 over x plus 2. So that in the denominator, you have a nice and friendly denominator that's like x plus 2 times x plus 3. So then you're going to multiply each of those by the opposite one. So when you multiply this by this, 1 times that is just going to give you x plus 3 in the numerator. And then same thing here. X plus 2 times 1 is just going to give you x plus 2 here. And then when you really add up the top, what you're going to get is 2x plus 5. And then when you FOIL out the bottom, which you're going to do x squared. And then you're going to do plus 2x plus 3x, which is going to be plus 5x. And then 2 times 3 is plus 6. So you have this, and now you're going to put all of this over 1. So you're going to do 1 over that, which basically means doing the reciprocal of it. So I'm looking for the answer that is flipped, the flipped version of this. So flipped. And that is going to be B. Okay. 14. If 3x minus y equals 12, what is the value of 8 to the power of x over 2 to the power of y? Okay. So off the bat, this seems like a very confusing question, but I'm going to put 3x by itself. So I know that 3x equals y plus 12. And now I'm looking at this 8 to the power of x over 2y. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, I know I can represent 8 as 2 to the power of 3 to the power of x over 2 to the power of y. So 2 to the power of 3 to the power of x, when you multiply that out with properties of exponents, you're going to do 3 times x. And so that'll give you 2 to the power of 3x over 2 to the power of y. And so now you're like, okay, well, I know what 3x is here. So I'm going to plug whatever 3x is into 3x. So 2 to the power of y plus 12 over 2 to the power of y. And then you're like, okay, so now I know that. And I know that if I gave you something that's like 2 to the power of 5, 2 to the power of 5 divided by 2 to the power of 2, you'd tell me that that is 2 to the power of 3 by doing 5 minus 2. So it's the same situation here. So this is going to be equal with like exponent rules. to 2 to the power of y plus 12 minus y. And that will cancel the y's out, and you'll be left with 2 to the power of 12. So this was definitely one of the more difficult, challenging, kind of creatively looking at it type of problems on the SAT. So just keep that in mind. Okay, if a to the power of... Okay, so the last question, also a really quick thing to note. Number 1 on the SAT is always the easiest question. Number 15 tends to be the harder question. So it gets harder as you go. So I'm going to just start by foiling. Usually whenever this stuff happens, it's easy to foil. So with the A's and B's. So stay with me with this. AB x squared. And then this is going to be plus 7ax. This is going to be plus 2bx. And then this is going to be plus 14. They're telling me that this equals this part of the equation. So I know that the 14 matches up. That's nice. So that kind of tells me that AB equals 15. I know that. And then they're telling me that I know that these two will add up to equal CX. So 7ax plus 2bx equals CX. And what I can do with that is I can get rid of the x's. So I can cross. And then I'm left with 7a plus 2b equals c. Okay. What else are they telling me in the question? They're telling me that a plus b is equal to 8. So if a plus b is equal to 8, then I'm just in my mind, I'm asking myself, okay, well, what are the factors, what numbers multiply to 15 that also tell me that a plus b equals 8? So 1 and 15 don't, but 3 and 5 do. So I know that 3 and 5 fit this narrative of like a times b is 15, a plus b is 8. So with that in mind, I now have... Normally, what someone might do is once you get 3 and 5, you might see that in the answer choice and you'll just circle it. Be sure to read the question. It says, what are 2 possible values for C? So in this case, I need to plug 3 in for A and 5 in for B. But then what if B is 5? What if A is 5 and B is 3? So there's 2 situations that I need to check. So this is going to be, if A is 3, I'm going to do 7 times 3 plus 2 times 5 is equal to, that's 21 plus 10, so that's 31. So off the bat, I'm kind of looking at D as my right answer choice, and then I'm going to retry it again with 7a plus 2b equals c again, but this time I'm going to put in 5 for A and then 3 for B, which is going to give me 35 plus 6, which is 41. So D is the right answer, and I kind of see that because both of those numbers are in there. If you're short on time with this question, if you were to find 31 or you were to find 41 off the bat, it would have been a solid move to just circle D. Just after finding 1, because that's the only one that has that answer in it. So, okay, so now here's the fill-in-the-blank questions, which are, it starts again, like easiest to hardest. So 16 tends to be the easiest, and then by the time you get to 20, that's usually the harder question of the lot. So this is just a difference of squares. So you're going to do t plus 2 times t minus 2. And what that essentially does is when you FOIL it out, you lose that x value in between because the minus 2 and plus 2 t's cancel each other out. So now one thing to remember about like the SAT is that on these fill-in-the-blank questions, there's never going to be an answer that could be negative. They're always going to ask you for some positive answer because you can't bubble a negative into the grid that they provide you with. So keep that in mind. So if you get a negative answer, most likely you're going to have to go back and check your work. There's probably an error somewhere along the way. So in this case, I know that t is equal to negative 2 and 2, and then they're telling me t is greater than 0, so I'm going to go ahead and say that my answer is t is equal to 2. Okay, so 17 seems like an intimidating question, but it's nice. They have a little sketch out of everything. So I'm going to kind of just match the numbers that they're giving me with the sides. What I do know, what I can tell is that these are probably similar triangles because I see this angle here is matching with this angle here. So that might be something having to do with similarity. They're saying AB is 1,800 feet. So I'm just going to write that here, 1,800. And then they're saying that EB is 1,400 feet. So EB is here, 1,400. They're telling me that BD is 700. So BD is up here. That's 700. Oh, so I'm seeing that 700 times 2 is going to give me this 1400. So, okay, that's good to know. And then they're telling me that CD is 800. Okay, so because this 700 right here is going to give me this 1400, I know that this it's a pair of similar triangles because of that angle, because of 700 becoming 1400, you're multiplying everything by 2. What's great about similar angles is that the corresponding side is just you're just multiplying by some kind of factor. So I know that the factor here is 2. So to get from this triangle CBD to the ABE triangle, all you're doing is you're multiplying everything by 2. So 700 multiplies by 2 to get to 1400. Over here, there's technically a 900 that would multiply by 2 to give us that 1800. So then all you have to do to get your answer here is 800 times 2, which is 1600. And we'll box that for everyone. So that's 1600. Okay. X plus y equals negative 9. X plus 2y equals negative 25. So here it's a system of equations. We just need to solve for x. So in terms of like tricks and tips, it's easier to just cancel out the x's here and solve for y first. But what I'm going to do is I'm gonna multiply the top by 2, because if it's easier to quickly just cancel out the y, then I'll just get my answer for what x is. So 2x plus 2y equals negative 18. X plus 2y is equal to negative 25. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract the 2, and then I'm going to get, these cancel out. I'm going to literally just get x equals negative 18 minus a negative 25 is positive 7. And then that way I don't have to go back and plug in anything. I just get what my answer is. X is equal to 7. In a right triangle, one angle measures x degrees where sine of x degrees is equal to 4 over 5. What is cosine of 90 minus x? 90 degrees minus x degrees. So this is kind of just a formula. Really, I would say that more of just a memorization thing, but you could think of it in terms of SOHCAHTOA. So let's talk about just like right triangles. I'm going to do this question as if, just like beforehand, if you were looking at this question, you're a kid who's already done pre-calculus, cosine of 90 degrees minus x, you know that that's an identity to tell you that that's equal to sine. So this equals sine x, and you could automatically just write 4/5 and submit it, and that's your right answer. But if you don't know that, you might want to think about geometry and SOHCAHTOA from geometry. So there's a right triangle. I'm going to write 4 here, 5 here. So let's say that this is our angle right here, like angle A right here. So this is sine of angle A is going to give you opposite over hypotenuse. So SOHCAHTOA, it's going to give you opposite over the hypotenuse. So then if they're asking you for cosine of 90 degrees minus that x, what you're going to do is right here is going to be 90 degrees minus that x degrees. And cosine of this is going to be adjacent over hypotenuse, which is, again, just, this is x degrees. Cosine of this is going to be adjacent over hypotenuse, and this is now the adjacent, and that's over the hypotenuse, which is, again, 4 over 5. So that's just an identity that you might want to remember. But there's very limited pre-calculus on the SAT usually for math. Okay. So again, this is like a plug and chug question is what I like to call it. All I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in A inside of this equation. So 2 times 5 root 2 equals root 2x. So that's going to be 10 root 2 equals root 2x. Whenever you have square roots, it's just easier to cancel them out. So let's just multiply. We're going to square all of these. So I'm going to square this, and then I'm going to square this. So on the right side, the square cancels out the square root. I'm going to get 2x. On the left side, 10 times 10 squared is going to be 100. And then root 2 squared is just going to be times 2. So this is 200 equals 2x, and then x equals 100. So I'm going to get that. Okay, and that's it. So that's a full entire SAT practice test 1. So with explanations and everything, this is meant to be 25 minutes long for you to take on the real day. If you do have extra time, I would definitely recommend going back and like checking your answers if necessary. And yeah, so that's it. And you made it through.